So it's the Soames Museum in London, which is another incredible sort of site, which is a museum of the 19th century of the architect Sir John Soames, who developed during his lifetime the museum, actually his house into a museum, his living environment into a museum. So it became a sort of an extremely dense, multi-layered presentation of his collection, and it's so dense that two pathways are never the same. So we invited a number of artists to explore that sort of setting, and you know, in a certain way, what obviously happens is that in a house museum like the Soames Museum, that sort of gap which exists between art and life changes very radically and actually can diminish to a to a big degree. So, for example, the whole exhibition became very much a conversation piece. There's certainly something which that there was a lot of conversations between the guards and the visitors, and that was one thing. And the other thing that triggered a completely different type of work, because artists like Isaac Julian or Richard Hamilton, they would do very different work in this house museum than they would do in the Tate or at MoMA or at the Musée d'Art Moderne, where they would do a completely different scale of work. And we continued that experience afterwards in Mexico, in Mexico City, in the Barragan house, which is another kind of amazing house which has fascinated artists for generations. So we invited artists and architects equally to revisit, to re-inhabit Barragan's house. So Carrie Swin Evans, made an archive of the record collection of Barragan. The car of Barragan was repaired and put back into motion. So suddenly the house of Barragan was back alive, and there was all kinds of conferences bridging art and architecture. And that will now lead to the next step of a house museum exhibition, which will be next year. And it will happen probably in Granada, in the house of Lorca, where Lorca used to live and work. And there will obviously be a sort of an increased dialogue between art and poetry and art and literature, and at the same time interventions of artists in this sort of house museum. Another, and maybe that could be the last image, if I can find it, we can go back then on the projection, but I still have to look for it. So it's actually the Nano Museum. Because at a certain moment, we have to wait please 1 minute, because I have to find it. I'm not sure if I can locate it. The Nano Museum is actually a museum which is 2 to 3 inches, and which I founded in conversation with Hans-Peter Feldmann, who was the architect. So he found this frame, and I will tell you when it sort of pops up. And in this sort of 2 to 3 inches frame, there was a series of 21-person exhibitions. So it's a portable museum, really. It's part of the tradition of portable museums. Yeah, I'm trying to find it, but actually, in the meanwhile, we can maybe open it to questions. So thank you very much for your attention, and if you have questions.
Thank you,
I have to apologize for the fast speaking. No. It's kind of to do with my exile, actually, because I had to leave Switzerland for that very reason. Because when I grew up in Switzerland, it's like really very difficult in Switzerland to speak fast. And people always said you should go to Germany. And so I ended up going to France. So it's kind of an involuntary language exile. So, yeah.
What I mean not so fast is that I'm now coming in, and the director's privilege is to interrupt it here. You are not here for a question answer. That would be too easy for you. And
for the image popped up, by the way.
No?
So you want the art now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, go ahead. That's a nano possible. Right. Yeah. Okay. Infinite Conversation. Hans-Georg Gadamer, ein Gespräch sind wir alle. He's the father of hermeneutics, you know him. He said, we are all a conversation. Of course, beings that can be understood is language, so how not? And certainly, conversation is something which is dear to this program. It's the core of this program. If we are here for conversation, and I'm certainly applaud you for not bringing your biases towards the museum, but really started with a museum with an artist. That's a good move. But because we like conversation, we also know how hard it is to have one. Because we are not a conversation, we are a big chit-chat, Gewäsch, Gerede, dummes Zeug. He understands me. Stuff you really waste my time with. All this remix and mixing of information, you know, nobody really needs. This is what conversation is. It looks like nowadays. So that's why we are not plugged into the internet here in our classrooms. That's why we are not going out to Sils Maria, to the museum on this 22 days we only have here. That's why we are in the mountains and not in Paris or New York or some other place. To stop the chit-chat. To bring us in here with some of the masters, the same people you interview, but we don't interview them. We are not asking Jean-Luc to present his case and ask polite questions. No, we are questioning him. We ask him to come in here and give us what he is doing now, and then we go and we call it deconstruction or whatever we call it, but it's questioning. Questioning means, we are questioning, is this already the level we should think on? Is this, you can call it philosophical, but that is not really the point. All thinking should be on the level of our best philosophers. And only on this level a conversation makes any sense. If you cannot reach this level, and how hard it is, even for a trained philosopher to reach a level a conversation would make any sense, means open up new horizons, make us understood things differently. That you need to be separated, to have the courage even not to believe in holy cows or in big authorities, sondern just appreciate this questioning he does and be inspired to go after him and question him even more thoroughly. Not questioning, how do you think about that? Oh, and that was this. That is totally Gewäsch, unimportant for us to do. That is why we also, it's another point, deserve to get a doctoral degree at the end. Because we are not here to exchange information and feel good and everybody has to say something. For that, they should not even give you an undergrad degree. A BA is even a waste of time. So here we are because we risk not to know and to what we call a battle of wits with our best thinkers and best artists, hopefully sometime. There we have always a trouble to find a thinking artist who dares to think, not just present his case. Okay, but we are, that's just to explain to you how conversation and thinking plays a role here. Now I have to turn around and be fair and say you are a curator, you are talking about your work and how you approach it. You know, you didn't came here and said, I'm the thinker, Hans-Ulrich Obrist. You are here to say, how can I make space, how can I bring artists and other people together. And if they are able to discuss later all your prominent people or your celebrities in this room, where they have no conference, or just coffee breaks, that's a great idea, but that something happens in the coffee break, you have no power above that. You can just pray and hope it will happen something. And that you say they made books out of it, or had consolations, or working together, doesn't mean that they do anything important. You know, that's just a possibility. It's in no way a chance, actually. And I actually doubt it. I doubt it very much. I've been to so many of this kind of gathering, informal gathering. It's nice, but it's still small talk. Small talk on a very high level, but it never goes after the core cut to the chase. You know, go to there when people live or die in theory, and not just praise each other. Oh, it's very impressive what you did. Okay, maybe I can use it in my thing, etc. This is not conversation in the way I envision this. But again, turn around again. I'm not asking you. It would be unfair to ask somebody to do something what he should not do. So the question is, how could you contribute? Why did I invite him? This bad guy made me to be a professor for these 3 days here, in order to give our artists a chance to see these are the people you depend on